Hi, everybody. Welcome if you're new here. Welcome back for the returning clients. Nice to see you again. There's a topic that I found interesting over the December holiday, and I wanted to discuss it. First, before you listen to this, maybe if you haven't, there's a YouTube channel called 32, 30 like thoughts, then 2. The way the 32 guy, says it's with a heavy British accent. So normally it comes out like he's saying 42, but it's 32. I would recommend listening to it. He talked about this topic, and I was listening to it while going to work, and I thought it would be something that should be very, very interesting. And I wanted to give my opinion on this from the observations that I've seen. And the topic was population or birth control, and is it the modern woman's fault? Like he was talking about birth control, no, population, the decline in population, and if it's something that we should be worried about as the entire world or something. And he did a very, very awesome analysis of the topic. And for me, I just wanted to tackle a few things that I thought would be interesting. First and foremost, when it comes to population, I would not talk about the whole world. I'll talk about Kenya, to be specific. And these are the stats to start this conversation. And these are the stats. And the comparison for me, I took from 2000 to 2024. And here we go. The first one was total fertility rate. Kikuyu. Total fertility rate in 2000, this is the year 2000, was 5.35, so technically 5.4, compared to the fertility rate, and this is in both men and women. Fertility rate in 2024 is at 3.17, so we can go with 3. So from 5.4 to 3.1. Then when it comes to the crude birth ratio, in 2000, 40.6 live births per 1,000 people, 40.6 live births per 1,000 people, and compared to 2020, Iwameka 2022, and that one was at, I think, sorry, they've not included that one. Now, the total number of births in 2022 was over 1.2 million in Kenya, only 2022. Compared to 2000, it was close to 3 million. Then they did a stat whereby back in 1989, the child rate per family was 6.7. So technically, people are having 6 to 7 kids in 1789, compared to 2022 in Kenya, where they're having 3.4. So we've gone down by 2 to 3 kids per family. So people who used to have 6 kids, 7 kids, now people are having 3 to 4. That was in 2022. The stats that I wanted for 2024 in Kenya, ilikuwa inaonyesha people are having 2 to 3 kids so far. And when 32 was talking about this, ilikuwa, what he addressed was the whole world as it is, and it showed Kenya as part of the sub-Sahara that is still having a very high birth rate compared to the other parts of the world. And that's a funny thing, because you can see even in Kenya, the birth rate has gone down. The child per family rate has also gone down significantly. And we are still leading Western world, Western countries, and parts of Eastern countries like Japan, countries like China. They are going back to now paying people to have kids. Like if you're a woman, you can get unakuwa baby mama wa the government. You can get paid to have kids by the government because they're seeing their population is going down. And what that does, inaanza ku affect the production of the entire country, because you find that older people, the bell curve is leaning towards older people being the majority in the workforce, and there are no people to replace them. And the funny thing was, when 32 was talking about this, he mentioned a few things about women here and there. But the reason I'm leaning more towards is it the modern woman's problem why people are not having kids. I was influenced by a lot of the rhetoric that is in the media today. Let me just call it media, because YouTube, Facebook, everywhere, it's media. No matter the scenario, it's media. And a lot of people are kila mtu, everyone is pointing at the modern woman as the reason that the family unit is broken. That is one. The other reason is the modern woman does not want to have kids. The modern woman does not want to be a mother. The modern woman does not. So, is birth control the problem? Is population control the problem? And here are a few topics I wanted to discuss. I hope you can get to watch 32's video, because it was very, very interesting and very well done. And a few things that he mentioned. First and foremost, nowadays you find everywhere, every topic, everywhere you go, like a podcast or whatever, if people are talking about women issues, birth and birth control is part of it. And I remember a few months ago on Lingoge's YouTube, there was this woman, and then later on there was a man who was talking about how birth control has awful side effects and how it has affected the fertility in women. And I'm not disputing that at all. I'm not disputing it. But people put birth control in this scenario like it's something that is forced down women's throat. Like you have to take this birth control. Like you are held at gunpoint. You have to take this birth control. But no, it's a choice. And why I'm saying it's a choice, a lot of women are leaning towards birth control. I'm not even talking about the modern woman. I'm talking about the woman in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and why they leaned towards birth control when it came out. We forget a huge part of why these things became a necessity. These things became part of people's lives. And one of them was, back then, a lot of women, if you read books, I don't know how to quote books or how to quote sijui page flani, paragraph flani. I don't. I just read, I get the information, and I close the book. Anyway, if you read books, if you have conversation with people, older people who were there back then, you find a lot of people, a lot of marriages, a lot of families were held together by the fear of instability, by the fear of losing that stability. That does not mean the stability was good. That does not mean that the family unit was perfect. Because a lot of modern men, let me put in quote, modern men, when they talk about the family unit ya kitambo, let's take someone like Andrew Tate. When he's talking about the way his grandmother is very happy with those many kids, he's forgetting he's giving his own perspective. He's not giving his grandmother's perspective of this issue. A lot of women were married off as very, very young girls. They were brought up, even before they got married off, they were brought up with the notion that theirs was to be someone else's property, not even a human being, property. Theirs was to be someone else's property. So in the minute they started showing signs of developing into a woman, and then the woman's body will not hide. If it's the hips, they will be there. If it's the breast, they're going to come out. If it's the nice faces, if the features are going to come out. The minute this young lady was showing this, she'd get married off. So no matter the age, if they're 12, if they're 13, if they're whatever the age, they'd get married off. And they're getting married off most often than not to an older man, an older man. So with the notion of stability. Then the second thing, when this girl, tumeona, not even the second, the third thing. The first thing is the psychological preparation. You're someone else's property, you're someone else's problem. Like you're being raised to get married and give birth to children. Then you're married off very young. Then after that, you become the person's responsibility. And the problem with that was back then, women, if we look at the cultures the way they were really, women didn't own anything. They never owned anything. They never owned land. They never owned their houses. Like you're leaving your father's house into your husband's house. You're not getting an opportunity to build your own life at all. So they never had anything. So the only option was for this woman, in case anything happened when she was married off, was to go back to the father's house. And most of the time, going back to your parents' house was considered shameful. So no matter the scenario, the woman was kept in itagwaji under the heels of society. So when the option for birth control first came in, a lot of women who had gone through all of these issues beforehand, of course they leaned towards the birth control. They wanted something that they can control their lives with. Like, I don't have to be married off at this young age and then start birthing babies. Like, it's the end of the world. I can control that part of my life. And then unajua watu wanasemaga like women were running towards careers na nini. When you read the Western, by Western I mean the USA, the Europe, type of Western countries. If you read their history very well, the modern woman did not develop out of like her choice. It wasn't her choice necessarily that today I'm going to wake up and be a career woman. First and foremost, remember these are the periods where people were in war in the 1900s, 1900s. These are the period that people were in war, massive wars, like world affecting wars. So majority of men were sent off to war. These jobs that were left behind, these jobs that these men were doing in factories, in big institutions that were left behind, who do you think took over? Who do you think the companies were like, now we can't stop running things. Now let's incorporate the woman in this sector. And that's how unapata women started branching into, like they started leaving their homes and branching into the corporate world. So it's not something that women just woke up and decided, let me start working. No, they were forced by circumstances. And then when they started testing their own money, their own finances, and like having their own finances, having their own the things that they could manage about themselves, they decided now to control something else. Now these women, they decided now to control something else, and it was their financial freedom. So that is, wametoka kwa birth control, wamenda kwa financial freedom. And now these ones go hand in hand. Because the issue with birth control, especially in the corporate world, it's not because women didn't want to have kids. If you look at the laws, that these labor laws and the way they've changed, you see sometimes we are coming into a world that it may take time to get to where it is. And we found a lot of laws, a lot of regulations that are more comfortable for women, forgetting that these regulations came from somewhere. So ukiangalia the laws za kitambo na nini, being a pregnant woman while you are working was something that was so negative, was so looked down upon, that you would lose your job and your bosses didn't have to face any repercussions. Like to date we are still fighting for, there are countries that are still fighting for women whenever they are pregnant to get their maternity leave. Na bado even then inakuwa issue, inakuwa problem with these companies, because at the end of the day they feel like they're losing their money. They're paying you to go and give birth. So imagine how it was back then when women started working. See, they didn't want to have kids necessarily. I'm sure there are women who didn't want to have kids. But in this scenario, these companies were making it so difficult for women to actually have kids and do their jobs. Now, it's so unfortunate that it got to that point, because no matter the scenario, no matter when you're at home, if you're a pregnant woman in your own house, you never stop working. Like, doctors have to intervene and tell even husbands, like, let your wife rest for a few weeks because this pregnancy is not going the way it's supposed to. You never stop working. So, like, hata akikwambia ati uende leave home, like, you cannot work, you cannot do this, it raises a question of, kwani hata ukienda home unaenda kudu, so you're still going to work, you're still going to do 1 2 3 and the next. But anyway, we're just looking at your history, the way it is. So back then unapata there were stipulations and rules and stipulations and things of that sort to make sure that women didn't get pregnant and have kids at work and things of that sort, even if they were implemented bado by men. So unapata women now would rather now take the birth control so that they can control their own lives now. So umetoka kwa birth, financial, then your life, like your livelihood, the life that you're accustomed to, you have to now go into that. So unapata with every generation kuna something else that women are striving to achieve that bring more control. They giving women more control on matters affecting them and their lives. Poleni, my nini keeps acting up, my phone. Yes. Now, so tumetoka, one of them is birth control. So when you hear these men from the red pill community talking about birth control and its side effects, of course, every drug that you're going to take is going to have a side effect. And I'm always telling women, don't just take drugs over the counter. Don't just go to the doctor, to the chemist and buy whatever drug. And ulisikia ati itakusaidia not to get pregnant. See a doctor. Go see a doctor first. Tell them this is what you're looking for. Let the doctor do an analysis with you so that they can find the most suitable drug for you, for your body, so that you can limit the number of side effects that you're going to get. Even with that, I always say, I'd rather the sniper be bagged. Acha abagiwe to let the sniper be bagged, because at the end of the day, if you find the right bag, you're able to enjoy the act. Like, you don't have to like, it doesn't have to be uncomfortable. You're going to enjoy the act either way. And the side effects is hiyo, hata kama ni discomfort na nini, it's only for a few minutes and that is it. But when you start taking these birth control issues, pills and whatever, you develop different issues, especially if you're not doing it right. So for that, hiyo ya kwanza tumeona, that is not necessarily the women's fault because they're taking birth control now, it's their fault the population is going down. No, it is not. Because a lot of people in this red pill community, I listen to them a lot, and these traditionalists, ukisikiza YouTube, there are plenty of traditionalist men and women who they just outright say women taking birth control is the wrong thing, we should ban birth control. And you're like, do you realize the history of this thing and how it came to be and why these people are taking it? Because if most workplaces were comfortable with a pregnant woman around, now we can say that kuna implementation of rules and laws to protect these pregnant women. But if they were from the get-go, I don't think, in as much as there are other things affecting the population growth, I don't think it would have been this bad by now. Because ukiangalia the birth pill, these birth control pills, when they came in, I don't think yet imefika 500 years between when they came into place and now. I don't think imefika 500 years. So I don't see why it should be like the modern woman, everything. No. And then the effects of it and everything, like I said, information is key. If you're going to do this thing as a woman, now going back to the women, if you're going to do these things with birth controls and whatnot, do them with a doctor. Every drug you're going to take, it's on a side effect yake. Hakuna drug yenye haina side effect. Hata kama ni mitishamba like herbs and whatnot, they all have their own side effects. But when you work it with a doctor, they're able to limit they're able to give you the best option for you to limit the number of side effects. Now, the second thing, remember the topic is the population decrease, the population control, and is it the modern woman's fault? Then 32 talked about something to do with based on countries. Yes, this I mentioned. The birth rates based on different countries. Unapata the more modern the country is, the less they're having children. Like we said, Western countries, their birth rates, they are very low at the moment. Now, kama Eastern countries like Japan, the ones that are developed, the more developed they are, the less people are having kids. And why is that? Like, is that the woman's problem? Like, the development, is it the modern woman's problem? Remember, so that a country can become developed, like more developed, so that a country can have better or good economic or whatever, so that they can get to that point, they need a workforce. And so that they can get a great workforce, they need also the like time management, like a great output na nini, they need their time management ikuwe poa. What am I driving at with that? Developed countries have their workforces working crazy amount of time. Like a crazy amount of time. Unapata like in the US, in the UK, you hear people saying they're taking double shifts, they're taking double this, that, and the next. By the time this person is going back to their house, be it a man or a woman, like it doesn't matter the gender, be it a man or a woman, this person is tired. Remember, this person is doing 2 shifts. If we just say, for example, they are maybe 8 hours per shift, aliingia a job maybe 5 in the 6 in the morning, atoke job by 4 in the evening, 3 to 4 in the evening. Then they go for their second shift between maybe 6 in the evening to around 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning. Then they go back home. What time does this person have to start procreating? Unaona, be it a man or a woman, what time do they have to start procreating? So napata, the period of time that the workforce, the companies need these people so that they can have a running workforce, is also affecting the birth rates in different countries. Now, is that the modern woman's fault? I don't think it is, but anyway, let's go to the other topic, the other thing that he tackled, which was issues to do with gender equality. This one was looped in with the birth control thing. Remember, every time there's a discussion about the modern woman, the thing usually, the biggest issue with a lot of people in the red pill community mostly, you'll find that they think because the woman has an equal footing with the man in a race issues, which maybe it does, but you're saying that this person who was, what can we call it? This person who was oppressed, who was voiceless, who couldn't say anything, is now allowed to speak, and that is a problem. So when it comes to gender equality, where I think the problem is coming in, of course they're saying this is in a lean towards the woman. It leans towards the woman because kitambo, equality was just all men are equal. Women were not in the picture. But now gender equality, where the problem comes in, and where now women are getting blamed for, is that they have a say. They have the opportunity to say, I'm not going to get married, or if I'm in a relationship, I'm not going to have a kid this year. I want to get maybe from one point of my career to the next, or I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to do the next. Na hapo ndio inataniwa around, inakuwa women are not, they don't want to have kids. Women do not want to have this, that, and the next. Women do not, because the woman is able to say, like, they are, of course, we are working, we are doing all the necessary things, but we are saying we can't, like, you can't choose for us. You can't say, I want 7 kids, like as a man. You can't say I want 7 kids by my wife. The woman has the power to say no. Kitambo, they couldn't say no, because hata unasema no as who? To the point where I couldn't say no to unwanted sexual advances. Anyway, then the other thing that he mentioned was economic and financial aspects. Your agenda issues, it was leaning towards women, and them being in a position where they can say they don't want to do something, or they don't want to do the next, and sasa in affect how they're going to have kids. The other one was economic and financial aspects. Remember, we're living in a modern world, because kila issue ni the modern woman, but we are living in a modern world. Even the men themselves, the men that are they're involved in their kids' lives. See, when you two wanazalisha, like they're having kids with everyone left, right, and center. The men in these families are also the ones who are standing up and saying, given my financial capabilities, I can't add another kid. Like, let me get a vasectomy because I can't add another kid in this equation. Then for someone like me, let me be biased kidogo when it comes to financial aspects. I've always said, na nashinda nikiambiwa it's a wrong thing to say, but I've always said, until I am financially stable. I don't mean rich. I don't mean I have all the money that Elon Musk has. I just mean until myself I'm financially stable, I'll not have a kid. I'm headed into my 30s. Remember, if it were kitambo, what would have happened? I would have probably have had kids by the time I was 13 or something. Until now, I don't have any kid. Because I'm like, anakuja tufanye nini? I don't have the money to feed myself. What about a child? What about an additional mouth? You see, that, like, you consider these financial aspects. The economy of this world and the financial reward of working, they are not matching. Like, you have to put so much effort for you to get half as far as the previous generations, which is also something that he mentioned about the generational differences. Unapata the generational psychology, the generational wealth, the generational financial aspects, and the generational economy, like what economy each generation was subjected to is very different, and it's getting tougher as the generations go on. So inafika mahali where it just stops being a gender issue. It's about finances. Like, we can't continue having 94 kids where we are barely surviving. We are barely making it. We can't do that. We can't keep doing that. And that's why the nini inarudi chini. The other thing that he mentioned are basic needs. Remember, majority, like the more years are going by, the more people wako below the poverty line. The more people are suffering. The more people are not meeting their basic needs. So unapata, why would you have children where there are already kids that are suffering out here? So that one now leads to also psychological issues, because we are subjected to a lot of traumas, especially with social media, we're subjected to a lot of things too fast. Like, we're subjected to a lot of issues too fast. Like, in a day, utakosa kusikia ama utakosa kuwa exposed to something that a lot of people, ukiangalia comments, they're like, this is a very nice way for birth control. Like, this is a very nice birth control issues. Like, right now that we're talking, in California kuna moto imechoma like 50 acres of land, 50 or more acres of land. 3,000 families have lost their family home. And when you look at these things, you're like, imagine the scare, imagine how crazy it's going to be. Then you look at the psychological issues, pia. These ones come from the previous family generations. When you are metulea, unapata watu wako na issues now. They have their own mental issues. Your parents subjected you to a lot of issues pia. So you find that it trickles down. Like the more you go back in history, you find it was worse for these people. Ni kuficha walikuwa wanajua kuficha vizuri, but it was worse for these people. So ukienda the more muna grow, the more una realize we are psychologically fucked. Most of us are still dealing with so many psychological issues that we're like, no, we can't have kids. Now you say it doesn't affect either gender. Like, we can't blame any gender. It's both genders that are having these psychological issues. Now, finally, to the question is itself, and ilikuwa inaulizwa na sasa 32 was, is it selfish? Is it that people are becoming more selfish, that they don't want to have kids? Is it something that is selfish, or is it something that is selfless? For me, I think it can be both. It's selfish in terms of, if I'm only able to live a comfortable life, like if the farthest I've come, I'm only able to provide a comfortable life to myself, I'm choosing to be selfish enough not to add someone else. I think that is selfish. But then again, in that same scenario, like, a little bit selfless, because you don't want to add someone else to these issues za hii dunia. Like, if you've listened to this podcast from the get-go, the type of life I've had, I'm always like, I don't want someone else. I don't want to be the cause of someone having this type of life. So for me, I think it's both. It's selfish and selfless. Then eventually was, what other things are people giving up? When people turn around, the reason I was leaning towards women when I was starting was mostly because I've been exposed to a lot of red pill, traditional, nini, and these gender wars that are going on. And a lot of people keep going back to blaming women, like, you're the reason the family unit is broken. You're the reason for this. You're the reason for this, because women have been modernized or empowered, in quotes, the way people say women have been empowered. But what are they forgetting? What other things are people giving up? A lot of people are giving up, especially millennials and Gen Zs. They're giving up on ever owning a house. And you remember, when you're having a family, the first thing is the basic needs, which is shelter. The other one is food, and the other one is education. I don't remember. Ni health. Yes. Those three. People are giving up on ever owning a house. People are giving up on ever having balanced diets, like imefika hapo. People are giving up on their health insurance. Remember the issues with the guy who shot a CEO, Luigi, because of health, like getting a health plan for your family. A health plan for your family is so expensive. So you're like, people are giving up on these things. People are giving up on education, because personally, ukiniuliza, sometimes I feel like education is a very expensive mistake. But people are giving up on plenty. Like, it's not just a woman-man issue. People are giving up on a lot of other things. People are giving up on ever finding gratification. People are giving up on ever knowing the meaning of being alive or living. So mse kama wewe, you put that person in any situation and ask them to have a child, the first thing is like, what is wrong? What is wrong? Why would I have a child in a world where I'm also giving up on myself? You're getting? And then you find these things will eventually be manipulated so that we can keep fighting each other's online. Kama kuna meme I saw, and this guy was talking, he was very serious. So remember, everyone can have a podcast, and if you have the equipment, you can make yourself look like what you're saying was so significant. And he was talking about the modern woman, and how the modern woman has been too empowered to the point where they're not listening to their men. They're not looking forward to having a family unit. They're not doing this and that and the next. And then unaangalia umse unaishindwa if you're going to have an intelligent conversation, cover all bases. Like every time someone talks about the traditional woman having a traditional lifestyle, hakuna traditional lifestyle anywhere. This is a modern world. And men need to modernize themselves. These men who have a traditional mindset, they need to modernize themselves. They need to adjust to the world that we are in, because it's modern, and all of us have to be modern. We have to modernize ourselves. We can't just keep looking at the past and longing for what could have been. Yet when you look at the statistics themselves, even then, it wasn't a good thing. People are giving up on development. People are giving up on education. People are giving up on ever getting a good income at any point. Because we compare right now, the way they are saying, the way the economy is, the inflation has gone up, compare with how much people are earning, you can't live a good life. Like, you can't enjoy yourself. That's why people are doing double shifts. Why would you want to have a kid in that scenario? Anyway, I think I need my rant. But anyway, make sure you've listened to 32. And I think it's a very manipulative dialogue, especially with the media, especially the media that is leaning towards the family unit and whatnot, which is a good thing. And I wish we can have a very detailed and open discussion about how to modernize even the family unit to the point where one gender or one person does not have to give up the entire identity so that this thing can be sustainable, because that only means it was not sustainable in the first place. Like, if I have to give up everything about myself, then that is not a life. Anyway, I think I've ranted. Rant as much as I can, and I hope you guys are going to listen to that 32 episode. And he has a very, very nice and very professionally done videos about different